Thank you so very kindly to Los Alumnos de San Juan and to our chief, the very hard-working Chief Ricardo Barra Hernandez. His Worship, the Mayor of the Royal Chartered Borough of Arima, Alderman Cadney Castaner, the Honourable Penelope Beckles, Member of Parliament for Arima and Minister of Planning and Development, our featured speaker, Professor Rosemary Bell Antwine, Principal of the UWI St. Augustine campus, and I say that with a smile, I'm so proud. Miss Anne-Marie Noel, Representative of the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. Miss Melissa Mitchell, Deputy High Commissioner of the Australian High Commission. Miss Jessica Burks, Political Counsellor, Representative of the Canadian High Commission. Her Excellency Martha Penia Permaduma, Ambassador of the Republic of Colombia, and Miss Ade Cortez, Deputy Ambassador. Miss Vadwati Inal, Director of Kailasa Hindu Community, members of the Santa Rosa First People communities and other communities. Dr. Satnarang Balkaran Singh, researcher and author. Friends of the First Peoples, Mr. Christian Rampasad, President of the Arima Business Association, and other members of the Arima business community, specially invited guests, distinguished Arimians, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, members of the protected services. Good afternoon and welcome to this solemn but wonderful celebration of the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. It's a celebration, my friends. We have a lot to celebrate this year, and we have a lot more coming up for us. My name is Laura Lazamali Singh, and I'm a member of the Santa Rosa First Peoples community, and it is my pleasure to be able to take you through this evening's proceedings. We are the inheritors of the earth. There is no community in any nation across the world more in sync with the planet Earth than the indigenous populations. We are the creators and practitioners of unique cultures preserved for centuries. We are the protectors of the natural environment. We understand the delicate balance of life. We respect the earth and all of your bearings. Earth provides and earth heals. Our traditional medications, our health practices, our earth. Today, August 9th, we in the Santa Rosa First Peoples community join with millions of indigenous peoples around the world in celebrating the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. Today heralds a celebration for us, the people of Arima, the indigenous people of Arima, the indigenous people of Trinidad and Tobago, and the indigenous people around the world. Your presence here today is testimony of your support for the indigenous people of Trinidad and Tobago. This year's theme, the role of indigenous women in the preservation and transmission of traditional knowledge. That's the international theme, is as relevant as it is necessary. In no way must we ever stop our culture, our traditions, our heritage, our beliefs, our people. We must never allow our beliefs to be stymied, to be stifled, or to die. Instead, today, as we celebrate, let us use this occasion as a clarion call to champion the rights of indigenous peoples in Trinidad and around the world. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we move along with our program. Please join me in welcoming to the podium the first citizen of the Royal Chartered Borough of Arima, His Worship the Mayor of Arima, Alderman Cadney Castaner, to deliver some remarks.
Thank you very much, Senator the Honourable Laura Lazamali Singh, the Honourable Penelope Beckles, Member of Parliament for Arima and Minister of Planning and Development, our Chief of the First Peoples, Mr. Ricardo Barra, who has been championing the First Peoples and their vision for many, many years. Ms. Anne-Marie Noel, representative of the Ministry of Sports and Community Development. Our previous speaker, Professor Rosemary Antoine, principal of the University of West Indies St. Augustine campus. And I think I remember her from campus. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, Ms. Melissa Mitchell, Deputy High Commissioner, Australian High Commission, Ms. Jessica Burke, Political Counsel, representing the Canadian High Commission, Her Excellency Martha Pena, Paduma, Ambassador of the Republic of Colombia, and Ms. Julie Cortez, Deputy Ambassador, Mrs. Raji Inal, Director of Kaiser Hindu Community, members of the Speakers Communities, Dr. Satyanarayan Balkaran, Singapore research and author, my good friend from years on the chat board, friends of the First People, our President of the ABA, Mr. Christian Rampersad, members of the media, especially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I came today with something in mind, but seeing the chief dance around the fire, and understanding his passion, I have taken another direction. So thank you, Chief, for taking me to the heart and not to the brain. I count myself as Jareem. I'm very proud of it, extremely proud. My father's family came from Dominica, and my mother's family was indentured from India. Yet I am a proud Aramean and Jareem. Could you imagine the pride of the First Peoples? How deep it goes, knowing that they were born here, they lived here, they cultured here, and somewhere along the line that culture was interrupted. And today, of course, the culture continues the best traditions of the First Peoples. So I can imagine the pride that the chief and the First Peoples feel when they come here, when they think about the island, when they think about the ancestors, because I think very highly of my ancestors and where I came from. I treasure the memories of my grandmother, my grandfather, my great-grandmother, who I came to know only through my grandmother. And I yearn for the day when I go to Dominica and meet my family on my father's side. I heard there's a thriving Kazumi clan across there that I'd like to meet, but I hope one day I'll be able to do that. My point being that the pride that the First Peoples have is something that we must first understand so that the prejudice can be put aside. It is very full of heart when you see what the First Peoples have been able to accomplish today. Usually I would come and I would say, well, the corporation will always be supporting the First Peoples, and I will always be here to support. But I think that's personal. I think that the First Peoples are owed and due any corporation and any support they get from the borough and from myself. I really think that. I think it should be part of our mission that we support the vision, goals, and aims of the First Peoples. And the chief has put up a very clear vision of the village that he wants to establish and of the kind of culture that he wants to leave as a legacy for all of us. Because once that is established, it's a legacy for all of us. And so I have, Chief, a renewed commitment to your vision and aims. I see it in terms of something that has to be done. If not in all lifetimes, we must set the foundation that it will be done and it will be sustainable. And it's not something that we could drop by the wayside. I have heard the commitment of our MP and Minister of Planning and Development at the last time we were here on the 1st of August. I heard of the plans to bring utilities to the First Peoples village. And I am very heartened by the efforts of the MP that over all these years, again, it took our MP to come and say, these are the steps we must take, and we must take it now. And of course, with the support of our colleagues in Cabinet and in the government, I'm sure it will be done. So, I am very much committed, as I said to the Vision Chief. I think that it's time that we move forward, not step by step, but in leaps and bounds to ensure that your goals and visions for this community comes to fruition in the soonest possible time. In my brief conversation a couple minutes ago with the Member of Parliament for Arima, I asked, is there anything street that is named in this area after the First Peoples? I don't think there is. So of course, Chief, you and I have to have some kind of consultation how we can do that. Because recently we'd have done Lord Kitchener, and we'd have renamed Pearl Queen Street Lord Kitchener Avenue in honor of his achievements. But I think Harima, we shouldn't stop there. I think we should go further than that. And so I will endeavor to consult with the Chief and the Council to be able to move this process forward and to recognize the contributions that is being made by the First Peoples and their community. I have also spoken to our Honorable Principal, Professor Rose Marie Bell Antoine, and I have indicated an offer from the Council to this civic ceremony to award her Lifetime Achievement Award, and she has kindly accepted. So, in recognition of our peoples and their contribution, we need to do it now. And as she said, really? No? I say not at the other time. Because we do it posthumously, and that is not how we should operate. We should say thanks, we should say appreciation, we should say honor here and now, and we intend to do that. So I'd like to also thank the business community for supporting the First Peoples in today's edition and pullout of the Guardian. I hope everybody got a copy. It's something that you should ensure. No, you haven't gotten a copy? Did you see it? Today we are celebrating a very special occasion. You know, World Indigenous Day of the First Peoples. It's world, and to that effect, there must have been something that would bring the history of the First Peoples to the nation today, and that was done today. And I want to thank the business community and the Trinidad Guardian for doing that. It's very important. I can't see us not doing that on today. So please, I'm not making an advertisement to the Guardian. Get a copy of that supplement. So you have it as a treasure and a history. So I want to thank the Chief. Thank you, sir, for allowing me to bring these brief remarks. And of course, I always stick to what I say, so we have our consultation. And I look forward also to the professor receiving her award the last week of August. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to see the Chief dance, and I also had to dance on some of the corridors, so I enjoyed that too. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone. God bless.
Thank you, Your Worship. And you know, you're right. When I was inside in the boardroom, I saw Chief dancing away. And I said to him, though, I said, when I see you dancing, I need to come up with something fiery a little later. So brace yourselves, everybody. Busy dancing. Ladies and gentlemen, we just have a few adjustments that we've done to the program that I've done with Chief's kind permission. So please bear with us. At this point in time, I wish to invite Miss Maria Muter to do an indigenous cultural item. Miss Muter hails from Venezuela, and she works with the Living Waters community on their educational projects. She works closely with the different Warao communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Her presentation this afternoon is a recreation of the Africans to the shores of Choroni, Venezuela, and it tells the story of the mix and fusion of cultures. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Maria Muter.
Préstame tu sombrero, San Juan Bautista, me estoy mojando. que derramaron nuestros libertadores. Venezuela, tierra del tepuy, del indio Guaycaipuro, de los teques, de los caracas, de los guaraos y del indio Churuní. Venezuela, tierra del cacao, tierra del café. Venezuela, tierra de heroínas, Isacaces y Arismendi, Maya Lionza, Negra Matea. Venezuela, tierra de héroes, Sucre, Miranda. Venezuela, tierra y patria, constelación, nuestro gran libertador, Simón Bolívar. Ahora sí.
Muchas gracias, Maria. Thank you. I think we should give Maria another round of applause. Beautiful story. And I hope that you all found this story of the different cultures coming around and coming together to Venezuela and she coming a wonderful dance again this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, Springer is a prolific poet, an author, a playwright, and a socially conscious pulse of Trinidad and Tobago. A Hollywood Silver Medal awardee, she uses her craft to tell the story of the culture and heritage of the Birthland. For her work, she has also been awarded the 2004 Vanguard Award of the National Drama Association of Trinidad and Tobago. She was also named a Poet Laureate in 2002 and is considered a matriarch of the arts in Trinidad and Tobago. She is the founder of, amongst other things, the National Heritage Library. I am deeply humbled to have the privilege of introducing this literary giant, this local legend, this national treasure. Please welcome Miss Pearl and Houston.
All protocols observed, but special greetings for to John Darwin. The presentation just now was particularly moving for me Because my own grandfather, Juan Guerra, came from Sucre, Venezuela, to plant cocoa in Santa Cruz. So my first people's roots were deep there, and it was very, very moving for me to see and hear, and it was just a very moving presentation for me, reminding me of my own roots. I have been given the pleasant task of reading from a letter of appreciation to our chief, Ricardo Barrett Hernandez, from the University of Trinidad and Tobago, the Office of the President, and Mr. Prasad. And I just want to read two brief extracts because it is a way of saying, apologizing that he's not here with us, but he took the time to write a letter to the chief, and we appreciate that. And it says, in part, there are 370 million indigenous peoples around the world spread across 90 countries who face threats to their indigenous traditions. Please rest assured, however, that we at UTT acknowledge the principal role that the First Peoples have played in our national history and their contribution to the world at large. Commemorating Trinidad and Tobago's First Peoples gives us a greater appreciation of the different cultures and encourage our sense of national pride. We congratulate you again on the exemplification of community and cooperation displayed by the First Peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. And on behalf of the staff and students of UTT, please accept our warmest wishes on the celebration of the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. Yours sincerely, Prakash Prasad. Let's give him a round of applause. I'm going to do one of my poems, and it uses the voice of our First People. The sound of the drum is the first sound apart from the sound of our heartbeat. And I am accompanied by Gerald Hector, my son, and my grandson, Saide. I'm pleased to see you, thank you. He said, yo, salute nos, more than you. I'm a storyteller, so I must give you a story about this one here. My grandfather, as I talked about, Juan Guerra, was a great quachista. When he passed, the only thing he left was his quacho. I went to Venezuela for a conference, a poetry conference, and his presence was very much there in the room. I won't give you the whole story, but I was instructed to get a quacho. And I brought the quacho and gave it to Kaide. Kaide has played the quacho without a lesson, and he has won the Best Quacho Prize for National Parent Association twice. So but our ancestors are here with us, and we are paying tribute to them today. And so I use the voice of our ancestors. As I say, Mabrika, Mabrika, Mabrika.
Mabrika.
You don't know me? It's I who first roamed these lush hills, creating the trails. I know these bounteous valleys. It is my laughter, my pain you can hear. If you listen, listen with your heart. Noko, noko, noko. To the wind songs, to the sound of swirling waters. My people have been since the faraway time. For more than 6,000 years, we have come and come. Karina, Nepuyo, Taino, Warao, Chaima, Kalipuna, Tamanakwe, Arauca. Many, many peoples over many, many centuries. From deep, deep in the belly of the mighty Amazon, the Orinoco, from the cotton we made fine nets. We caught the fish, Jomokaba, Jomokaba, from the shallow waters, from the deep waters, from the rivers. Everything came from the land. We pay respect to our sacred motherly earth. Everything came from the forest, from the sea, manioc and corn, food, wine, medicine, meat for the book and flame, oil for skin and hair, covering our bodies. Our feet, our jupas, built to stand firm against the rage, the fury of our great God of wind, storm, fire, hurricane, hurricane, hurricane. I have not gone away. You can hear me if you listen. If you listen with your heart, look with spirit eyes and see me plow my horse. Hear my voice echo in the magic hollow caves of our bridge. Hear the voices of our great warrior ancestors. Bakuna, Oteyani, Diamadi, but the mighties of all. Higher Rima, higher Rima, higher Rima. These monuments stand still in a Rima. This land of mine, stolen and ceded to my ancestors. I, on behalf of we, now lay just claim for more than the few acres that they give to me. That can't represent we legacy. It's time for reparation, recognition, respect for we traditions. This is my demand, not a petition, at this time of independence celebration. Recognize how much we can give to this nation. Know me, I am part of the past that must be in your future. Know me, now.
An incredibly powerful message from an incredibly powerful woman. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, our nation celebrates its 60th anniversary of independence on the 31st of August this year. And we are in patriotic season. And there's an amalgamation of cultures and peoples and traditions that make up this beautiful nation of Trinidad and Tobago. I long to see a dance similar to what was done for Venezuela for Trinidad and Tobago. So maybe, John, you could arrange that at some point in one of your concerts coming up. Yes. So the John I speak of is none other than John Thomas. John Thomas is a native of Arima, but a nationally recognized artist. He is a tenor, a magnificent creative, a conductor, a brilliant Arima mind, dedicated to the development of the arts. in Trinidad and Tobago. And please take it from me when I tell you he was dedicated to the arts in Trinidad and Tobago and the development. He's so bright, he has so many plans and ideas. And we are blessed this afternoon to have John here sing for us this patriotic song, God Bless Our Nation. Please welcome Mr. John Michael.
Feel free to join in anytime you wish. God bless our nation of many varied races. We meet those as that common love that binds and makes us one. Let it be known around the world that we can boast of unity and take a pride in our liberty. God bless our eyes of tropic beauty round, or flaming points Sienna and shady immortal. Warm and sparkling waters that break upon our shores, without a tune that seems to tell, we take a pride in our
Thank you so very much, John. I think it is so fitting that John performed God Bless Our Nation just before our next presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, our next address will be presented by someone who's certainly not a stranger to us. I grew up on the Grand Street. 2 corners away. And I remember my mother always talking about Barrett would be quarreling because the first people was not getting anything, and that's what came into my consciousness. I wouldn't lie. I look up at Miss Beckles here, and many of my first memories of many things in politics and Arima have to do with Miss Beckles picking me up and me going gallivanting. Well, not gallivanting. Gallivanting for me, it was work for her. It was gallivanting for her too. I remember coming here for several different little things, and it was the most magnificent thing. And waking up in Arima on August the 1st, and you hear the loud explosion of the cannon blast. I mean, this is the story of Arima. The story of Arima can't be told without telling the story of the first peoples, and the story of the first peoples cannot be told unless the main character in these times, and even for many years before, is none other than Chief Ricardo Barrett Hernandez. And so, Chief, we know for the 40 years of my life, I know you've been championing the First Peoples, and I know you're going to continue to do that to the very, very end. And Chief, we support you. We support that. And I'm sure everyone here as well, their presence is testimony to their support for you. And so it is my pleasure to welcome you to deliver an address to the persons here and to the national community. And in advance, I ask the members of the media to please pay close attention to Chief's remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Master of Ceremonies, Senator Laurel Zamalise. His Worship the Mayor of the Borough of Arima, Alderman Kani Casimir, the Honorable Penelope Beckles, Member of Parliament for Arima, Minister in the Planning, Ministry of Planning and Development. Honorable Penelope Beckles, Member of Parliament for Arima and Minister of Planning and Development. Ms. Anne-Marie Noel, Representative of the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. Our featured speaker, Professor Rosemary, Principal of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine Campus. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, Ms. Melissa Mitchell, Deputy High Commissioner of Australia, other representatives of the Diplomatic Corps, Her Excellency Martha Perdomo, Ambassador of the Republic of Colombia, and her deputy, members of our First Peoples community. I see Dr. Satnarayan Balkaran Singh, a friend of the First Peoples, Professor Brinsley Samaru, well-respected historian. I see Mr. A friend of the First Peoples, and all other invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of other First Peoples community. We are honored by your presence here this afternoon. We are particularly pleased to have the Principal of the University of the West Indies, Professor Rosemary Bell Andrine, as our guest speaker on this very significant occasion for the world's indigenous people. However, as Chief of the Santa Rosa First Peoples community, I must bring to your attention some of the issues that affect us at this time. On December 23, 1994, the United Nations General Assembly decided that the International Day of the World's Indigenous People shall be observed on 9th of August every year. The date marks the first meeting in 1982 of the UN Working Group on Indigenous Populations. In defining indigenous peoples, the United Nations Indigenous Peoples Forum had this to say: Indigenous communities, peoples, and nations are those that, having a historical continuity with pre-invasion and pre-colonial societies that developed from their territories, consider themselves distinct from other sectors of the societies now prevailing in those territories or parts of them. They form at present non-dominant sectors of the society and are determined to preserve, develop, and transmit to future generations their ancestral territories and their ethnic identity. As the basis of their cultural existence as peoples in accordance with their own cultural patterns, social institutions, and legal systems. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was approved on September 13, 2007. Many states have signed on to this declaration, of which Trinidad and Tobago is a signatory. Successive governments in dealing with the issues of First Peoples have used this document as a guide for their decisions in an attempt to improve the status of our First Peoples. Having said that, much more needs to be done to embrace the declaration in its entirety, which will lead to the level of recognition we require. There is need for ratification of this declaration. Some countries may be hesitant to do so because of the large numbers of indigenous peoples in their populations, and the remote areas in which they live would require a high level of investment. Trinidad and Tobago has nothing to pay as compared to these other countries. What Trinidad and Tobago's First Peoples need is greater access to resources that will enable us to preserve and transmit traditional knowledge. As was said in a submission to a joint select committee of the Parliament, First Peoples need a special provision to allow us to gather our forest material. And I'm not a featured speaker, so bear with me, but I must, as leader of the community, state some of these things. When we talk about the forest, the indigenous peoples depend on the forest for so many things. I will not elaborate and go into all the details, it will take too long. But the current laws that govern the forest protected areas is not laws that are beneficial to indigenous peoples. And I remember a couple years ago, the Aegis office was meeting with people, and they met with us in an attempt to see the laws that are in the country is in tandem with the laws that with how indigenous peoples live and their daily lives and so. And that was a welcome move, but I don't know where it will go. If it will be stopped somewhere. But the laws need to be revised to give indigenous peoples access to the forest. Not to own it as ours, but imagine when you want to cut these leaves to do this thatching that we do, you have to get a permit. I have no problem with getting a permit, but it has to get a permit. You have to go to the office, the district office. They take hours to write a paper. Then they send you to pay to the revenue office, wherever that is, probably my Sandy Granby or Shogona, Sotunapuna, according to the area. When you get down to that office, there is a mistake in the form, so they send you back to the office. And when you get there, you have to go back to get a stamp. The money you pay in transportation is more than what you pay for the permit, 12 cents for the permit. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So, it really doesn't make sense for us, for indigenous people. It might be okay for other people. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be laws to protect forests, because you must protect it. Otherwise, people will just desecrate it. But you have to look at it again in terms of indigenous people. I will go into more. When we asked for 400 acres of land, I remember clearly when Basile Pandey came and he sat next to me, and he said, how much land are you looking for? I said 400 acres. He jumped back. He said, why don't you take the whole northern range? So you did not understand why you were asking for 400 land. 400 acres is not to be bulldozed to build houses or residences for people. but it's a forest area protected so that we can harvest these leaves, we can protect it. In the area where we used to go, an area they call Tapana, we could hardly get a leaf because the quarrying has destroyed the area. The tirit to sow the leaves, to make the baskets, to make the implements, to process the cassava, it's all disappearing. So when we ask for land, we're asking for land as protected areas for these materials. Such as this, alright, have hundreds of acres of land. Right? The indigenous peoples of this land, you get at least 25 acres. That must be revisited. It's an insult. Alright? Rather, as I said, it is land reserved for use by the first peoples at different locations. Where the leaves, the vines, the timid, the tirit, the moriche, for traditional cultural practices such as homes and craft, and herbs and shrubs for medicinal and religious purposes would be protected. Today we do not have such access, as this we see as an infringement on the rights of indigenous peoples. The preamble to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples recognizes the urgent need to respect and promote the inherent rights of indigenous peoples which derive from their political, economic, and social structures and from their cultures. In achieving recognition of our rights is a trigger for us to revisit a previous position on a one-off holiday and to now seek an annual permanent national holiday. You cannot have equality. You cannot sing in the national anthem every creed and race finds an equal place, and the first peoples of this land do not enjoy a public holiday. A public holiday is much more than a day of rest and a day to go by the beach. For the other ethnicities, it is a platform from which they can speak of their past experiences, talk of their present situations, and present their plans for the future. And to get the rest of the country to recognize and to learn of their traditions. It should be no different for our first peoples. Right? In 2017, well, I will leave out of that. I will go. I don't want to be the future speaker. There was a time when the Aboriginal peoples of Australia were despised and looked down upon as worthless, subhuman individuals. We see now that a public apology was made by the Prime Minister of Australia to the Aboriginal peoples. And the government has been working to bring them to a place of equality in the society. A similar situation existed in Canada, and the government has also issued an apology to the indigenous peoples in the Parliament. In addition, in certain cities in Canada, leaders of meetings and other events are acknowledging that the land on which the city stands is the original property of the First Nations. Similarly in Trinidad, it's the same. Since this apology took place, we have again seen the head of the Catholic Church, His Holy Father, His Holiness Pope Francis, making an apology to Canada for the ills of the church. You know, I looked closely at the Catholic news on the Sunday following that apology and the visit by the Holy Father, and saw no highlights of this momentous occasion. And I wondered why. This Sunday, a snippet was tucked away on page 19 of the publication of the Catholic News. No drama there for the indigenous peoples, and I wonder why. Do you believe the church is guilty only of the indigenous peoples of Canada? Certainly not. They are guilty at every land where they went to the mission. Do you think the same thing that happened in Canada didn't happen in Trinidad or other territories? It happened. The church is equally guilty to all indigenous peoples wherever they went with the doctrine of discovery. Their way of imparting spiritual and traditional values was not the best way, but it is the truth. And the church today, at the highest level, must be aware that the new reality does not trickle down to the local church. If the church is serious about social justice, then a local apology must follow the steps of the Holy Father, why not address this area? If it is to appear to be redeeming the wrongs of the past with the intent of the restoration of the country, an apology was made by the Vatican, and we intend before the Holy Father, the present Pope, and we intend to pursue this apology with the local church. We have started already. Yes. And to how it can help the first peoples in advancing their goal. Do not believe for one moment that I'm against the church, but I'm speaking what has to be spoken. You must acknowledge your wrong in order to start healing and to go forward. So I'm not attacking, but I am calling for what is right and what is just. The United Nations theme for this year's observance is the role of indigenous women in preserving and transmitting of traditional knowledge. Historically, our carib queens are selected based on their knowledge of the history and culture, so that they can play an active part in the transmission of traditional knowledge to the youth and the community as a whole. Locally, we have made our theme gender neutral, since all the capacities will work in tandem in the heritage village, a symbol of preservation and transmission of our traditional knowledge. What is this village? It is a space to practice and promote aspects of our indigenous heritage, a space that will serve as the headquarters for indigenous communities, a space where people of indigenous descent can identify and feel a sense of pride in knowing that the country recognizes the contribution of our first peoples and seeks to ensure its continuity by developing this space as a living example of our contribution and presence. This brings me to my final point, reparations. As you know, as you are all aware, the issue of reparations is in the air, talked about in different forums. It is the view of the Santa Rosa First Peoples community that reparations must start with our national governments. There is enough voice from stakeholders on the Africans' enslavement, but the indigenous voice is limited, very limited. We do not see reparations as quantifying every ill and attaching a cost to them. We do not see reparations like that. Colonial governments will not be able to address claims on a dollar value. Rather, they can offer assistance for projects that indigenous peoples wish to undertake so that they can move forward. That is how we see reparations. For example, there was near destruction of the language and spirituality by the colonial powers. Their descendants can contribute to the setting up of sustainable programs to ensure the preservation of our languages, indigenous languages, spirituality, music, song and dance. The unveiling of a monument to the first peoples at the Red House site. At the Red House site, our Member of Parliament is here and our Senator is here. May I remind you, or I don't need to remind you, but I still want to say it. When you sit in that house, or it's called the Red House, and you debate and you legislate, you are sitting on the remains of our ancestors. As was evident in the retrieval of the human remains and the artifacts, that is a burial site. So we go there every year to pay our respects. And I'm calling on you, Madam MP, to do one thing. This year, October 14th, I know budget is around that time. Last year, due to COVID, we had a very small ceremony. You were present, and we were burning in the sun. And if rain comes, we will be soaked. We need a tent for that morning. It's not very long. And to get the Speaker of the House, I wrote to her, but it was quite late last year. I will write to her. You all must stand for a minute's silence in honor of the indigenous people and the remains that you all are sitting on in that place. It must happen. If it don't happen, you will have trouble. Plenty trouble. Because you see, when things like that happen, We found all these bones and these human remains. The ancestors are speaking. That is the only way they can speak. They cannot speak to us as we are speaking, but they can speak to us by revealing themselves in their burial sites and all these places that we keep finding their remains. They have revealed themselves, and you all must put something in place to observe and respect, even for a minute, that occasion. It is therefore incumbent on First Peoples throughout Trinidad and Tobago to identify with their heritage and build that critical mass to move us forward. The gathering and homecoming of the descendants of the First Peoples and the First Peoples descendants from other countries living here now will strengthen our call for that national holiday as enjoyed by others. It is so much to read, and I think I'm taking away from our future speaker. But I will just end by saying that I want to publicly thank His Worship the Mayor and the Rima Borough Corporation and the CEO especially for their efforts and for their assistance to us in whatever way as we continue to develop the hill. And I want to thank our MP, Member of Parliament, because since she has taken up the new ministry in planning, we have seen great progress. I know even before that, she has been assisted in terms of meeting with other members of the government, for other colleagues, in order to get some action for us. But since she has taken the portfolio of the Ministry of Planning, we have seen great movements. And for that, Minister, I want to thank you. And I cannot go into all the details, but I want to let you know that we appreciate very much your efforts, and I know that God will keep you, and that He will bless your efforts, your colleagues' efforts, and our efforts, because what we are about is not only for First Peoples, but an added value for Arima and Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Forever the champion of the First Peoples, and really don't let your presence here just be the only form of support that you have for the indigenous peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. You heard Chief's cry, you heard his rally call, and I think it is fitting that the next person who appears on our agenda is known to be someone who believes in the preeminence of the First Peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. Chief has just explored her work and her support and her continued support both in her previous tenure as a Member of Parliament for Arima and even before when she was in the Borough Corporation, and now again as a Member of Parliament for Arima and particularly in this ministry. And so it is my pleasure for me to welcome our Member of Parliament here in Arima, the Honourable Penelope Beckles, to deliver some remarks.
Thank you very much, Senator Laura Lizama. Let me, of course, acknowledge His Worship the Mayor Alderman Cagney Casimir, Chief of the Santa Rosa First Peoples Community, Chief Ricardo Barra. I don't propose to go through the entire list of protocols, but I will adopt the list as specified by the chairman. But let me welcome, of course, my sister Pullentu Springer, Pull Laureate Rima. And I want to especially say how happy I am to be on this platform with the first female principal at the St. Augustine University and former classmate, Professor Maribel Antoine. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's never difficult to come after the chief, but it's always a pleasure. We have served together as councillors at the Arima Borough Corporation, so I know Ricardo very well. And as Senator Lizama said, I don't think there's anybody who's more passionate about the carib community than Ricardo himself. He speaks with conviction, and he fears no one. As you know. And the interesting thing about being a politician is when you're given directives from time to time from your constituents, especially the indigenous people, which you don't take lightly. So that, as I said, Ricardo and I go back a long way. I can call him Ricardo. We go back such a long way. You know, the statue of carib, we were in the council at the same time. And I have seen things improve, not in the speed at which we would like. And Professor Bakaransi is here, and he can attest to that. A lot has to do with the passion that you have when you lead, and the conviction, and that is what Ricardo has. And I am really honored to be the Member of Parliament for the First Peoples. It's a privilege. And it also gives me a responsibility to do as much as I can. Because it is the right thing to do to ensure that they get what they deserve. And one thing I'm happy about, Ricardo has never given up on me being able to help, because that is also part of it, the faith that people have that you can do better and you can improve, and you also believe in your cause. So that I really am here to simply give them the commitment. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much details, but I have been there, and it is the most beautiful sight. So if you haven't been there, it's history in the making. And you probably want to go there before it transforms into what Ricardo wants it to be, so you're going to be able to get the comparison. So make the time, because there's also a lot that a number of us here can do, you know, in many different ways. I want to encourage you to visit the site. But today is really about listening to what the featured speaker has to say. But I want to quickly just, of course, talk a little bit about the theme, which is the recognition of the role of indigenous women. And like Laura said, you know, and I will pick up from time to time, but you know, when you come here, and I'm being a little anticipatory, you know, whether it was when we came here on the 1st of August, I mean, what do you really think about? Think about a hot cup of chocolate, grated and made by the Santo Jeffries people. When you think about pastel, when you think about cassava bread, and think about farine, and I could go on and go on, you know, the fried bacon and the sausage. I had that quite recently on Sunday, right? So when you think about indigenous women, you think about food, you think about craft. Of course, my traditional shawl that I'm wearing, that I'm so fortunate today because I forgot to pass home and bring mine, and I was able to get that one. But you could come here and you can visit the facility and you can see the work of the indigenous women. If you are here on the Feast of Santa Rosa and you see the support that they have given over the years, and as you see the women around, you think about the strength of the indigenous women. And when you think about the strength of the women, you think that this is a community that has loyalty, that has purpose, and that will continue to grow. And because of that support that Ricardo has had over the years, I am absolutely certain that they are going to achieve their dreams of an indigenous village which they have been waiting for several years. Right? And the people who are here, and Ricardo called their names, I know that they are going to continue to give them 100% support. So Ricardo, I take what you said lightly. You know, Kitchener sang trouble in a rima. So when Ricardo say trouble in the parliament, you know, we don't take it like. Once again, happy Indigenous.
Thank you very much, MP, and we, your lovely constituents, will be waiting outside of your house. We wait with bated breath, but thank you, MP, for always really rallying with the first peoples, always. Thank you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the Warao indigenous community today is represented by the Januko Sumuko of the La Casita Hispanic Cultural Center, and they present a traditional dance, the Nayanamu. Although it is practiced less and less frequently, Nayanamu is one of the most important dances of the Warao people. So the opportunity to attend a ceremony such as this one is truly a special event. They call it the sacred dance, and the term Nahananu comes from rain or storm. The dance is a ceremony that invokes abundance and summons the gods of rain, land, harvest, and fish. Please welcome Januko Sanuka.
Bueno, tu mano, Bobby. Tu mano, Bobby, ya kiraha. Hey!
So we thank the members of Januko for that wonderful traditional presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point we have a musical interlude courtesy to DJs, so we ask our sound system to please play some traditional music for us so that we set the mood ahead of our feature presentation. So let's just sit, relax, anticipate the rain.
Driving the red car right in the center of Philadelphia and media trying to come out. When you finish, you can come and see it. Which one? The one in front?
Thank you very much. It was so beautiful to see our dancers, our children, our indigenous people participate in such joy and festivity. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Rosemary Bell Antwine is the Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal and Chair Professor of Labour Law and Offshore Financial Law at the UWI in St. Augustine. She is the former Dean of the Faculty of Law and PVC, Graduate Studies and Research. An Oxford and Cambridge scholar, she holds a doctorate in law from Oxford, an LLM from Cambridge, LLB from UWI, and certificates in international human rights from the IIHR in Strasbourg. She is an attorney, an award-winning scholar, an author, an international consultant, a temporary court of appeal judge, an activist. In 2014, she was elected president of the Indo-American Commission on Human Rights of the OAS in Washington, and was the OAS Rapporteur for Indigenous Peoples, head of the OAS Economic, Social and Cultural Rights Unit, and Rapporteur for Persons of African Descent and Discrimination. She is the CARICOM Chair on HIV, Migration, and Chair of the CARICOM Regional Commission on Marijuana. We quoted you extensively in recent week. She is the president of the Planning Association of Cambridge Ferry, a member of Trinidad and Tobago's Industrial Relations Advisory Committee, an honorary fellow of the International Society for Trust Practitioners, and the only Caribbean person and the trustee of the London IPPF board. Ladies and gentlemen, she has accolades that can go on from now until next week. Her path-breaking scholarship, activism, and consultancy work led to her being described by governments, international sources, and others as the foremost labor law expert in labor law in the region, and the leading authority in the region in international financing and HIV law, and she is described as a change agent. She remains committed to development within the framework of human rights. She enjoys painting, gardening, and she is a trained classical and of the indigenous peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. And even more importantly is that she's a descendant of Ariwa, and she's a woman, of course. No bias at all. It is such an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to welcome today's featured speaker, Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine.
Good afternoon, everyone. As I reflect on the events of the past few months, a world rendered fragile by disasters of every kind, flooding, forest fires, hurricanes, COVID-19, pandemics, earthquakes, and debilitating climate change, when the very land seems to be rebelling, I cannot help but think that it is a pity that we marginalize our indigenous peoples, our first peoples, their way of life, their communion with and respect for Mother Earth. Today we worry about food insecurity, the destruction of the planet, and our very survival. We search for answers, yet even as we reach toward the promise of technology and artificial intelligence, we are confronted with the awareness of their futility, our frailty in the face of nature. How easily the weeds of poultry industry ground to a halt when one virus from the natural world turned upside down our carefully constructed so-called development. But before our eyes we have our first peoples and all of our indigenous peoples who, with their centuries of traditional knowledge, can teach us so much, not just about survival, but about learning to live with our environment, with the earth as a friend, not an enemy. Now, ironically, the world is turning back in recognition that this way of life in harmony with nature is indeed best for our planet, our very survival. We are beginning to understand the value of the traditional knowledge that our first peoples knew. If we wish to unlock the key to genuine development and indeed sustainability, we must harness this knowledge. But first we must recognize our first peoples and make their communities sustainable, vibrant, and visible, reversing the centuries of neglect and abuse. We must seize the moment. It is no longer disputed that the brutal march of history robbed the world of valuable contributions of our indigenous peoples, particularly in relation to sustainable models of development based on their traditional knowledge sources. Indigenous peoples' rights focus on remembering, recognizing, and reclaiming those contributions. As we focus on the theme today, preservation of traditional knowledge of first peoples, and you heard Chief say that he made it gender neutral, but of course we recognize women are key to that. We should understand that traditional knowledge for our first peoples is more than just the tangible, the secular, or the cultural. It includes the intangible, the philosophy and worldview of first peoples, which is part of their very spiritual existence. The world is now remembering that indigenous peoples have a unique and valuable approach to existence, which demonstrates creativity, conservation, and utility, prioritizing harmony with the environment and a spiritual connection with the land. This is exhibited particularly in their agricultural and cultural practices, methods, and products. One principle, for example, is that nature provides us with bounty, but we must understand, quote, how much is enough, unquote. Take only what is needed. This is what today we call a first principle of environmental conservation, now at the core of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And they have also been identified as legal principles. In the landmark case of Saramaka in Suriname, concerning the clash between land rights and extractive industries, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights referred to the value system based on a spiritual relationship with the environment that is inherent in indigenous peoples. It established a precedent for granting collective rights to land and its natural resources on the basis of historical occupation and cultural affiliation. Indigenous peoples' belief system premised on community, not individual greed and possession,
is conducive to better ways to sustain the earth through broader notions of collective rights and responsibilities to the land. The concept of land and land cultivation is different to the legalistic, individualistic notions of legal title that we are all familiar with today. Community ownership and responsibilities to the land extend to where one plants or hunts or fishes. The notion that no one person owns the land and we must all take care of it. Regrettably, many of these important traditional resources of indigenous peoples, tangible or intangible, have either been lost through plunder and exploitation or remain vulnerable to extinction because of a failure to protect them for the benefit of mankind, even as the world thirsts for this very knowledge. Yet, harnessing and preserving this traditional knowledge cannot come without an acknowledgement of the harm done and genuine attempts to reclaim and reclaim. And we all know the history. The so-called civilized imperialistic Western world came with their ideas of superiority, military might, and a different worldview to these harmonious lands of beauty. They plundered, pillaged, perpetuated cultural loss, violated rights, and changed the course of history as they committed genocide. We may be less aware of the scandalous role of the law in this process. How law was used as a weapon, a tool of exploitation to destroy indigenous people's rights and to frustrate justice in what I call a kind of double jeopardy. So it didn't only happen at conquest when Columbus came. No, that process of pillage and disenfranchisement went on for centuries after. For example, the lands along the east-west corridor here in Arima that had been left of First Peoples by treaty, legal instrument, was stolen using legal tools. In short, in 1849, after they had been placed on communal land, for example, the Arima missions, they had 1320 acres, 1,320 acres. A new law, new ordinance, demanded individual title to lands, which of course they did not have. Since it was community land, so those lands were confiscated. So they were plundered twice, or more than twice actually. This approach to Carib, or Trinidad, as tierra nullis, land without a people, opened the door to economic and social discrimination and exploitation of a people who became displaced, dispossessed, and disadvantaged through deliberate and hostile forms of political and legal fraud and violence. While the majority of indigenous peoples residing on the northwest corridor were exiled to Calvary Hill, where my family lives now, very nearby, originally a mission site, this area cannot be described as a reservation since it has no special legal status. It is difficult for a people so disenfranchised and displaced to hold on to their traditions. But today I want to spend less time on history because we all know this is on our history. And I want to focus on the now and how we can use this history, make this history meaningfully connect to and intersect with our present reality and our quite precarious future so as to reclaim this traditional knowledge. And I see three main avenues. One is to affirm a legal identity for those peoples, and I think this is what the chief was crying out about before. Second is what the chief and Puran spoke already about, reparations. And the third, I want to suggest including First Peoples in a green, climate-smart agenda and just transition. Notwithstanding some important developments, so we've had state subvention, historical archives, a day of recognition, archaeological findings, even DNA testing. This has not translated into the First Peoples being recognized as having or being entitled to a separate legal identity, such that the international accepted rights that should accrue to indigenous peoples, as outlined in the UN Declaration, could accrue to them. And this itself weakens the ability to protect and preserve traditional knowledge. A priority must be a deliberate and focused effort to visibilize First Peoples as a group entitled to a separate ethnic and legal identity and moreover, a legal identity that is deserving of rights, including access to justice rights that are recognized under international law as indigenous rights. As the chief often says, First Peoples is not a cultural group. It should be more than window dressing. A targeted legal infrastructure needs to be developed. And by way of example, First Peoples will benefit from special legislation developed for the preservation of the same Red House site, identified as a sacred burial ground, securing their access to religious rights and dignity. While indigenous peoples under international law do have legitimate claim to land, including all First Peoples, another route would be through reparations. In Trinidad and Tobago, the loss of land, as I said, is particularly heinous because of the double jeopardy. But the 2 points on reparations and traditional knowledge, which emphasizes sustainability and climate strategies, are of course connected, since both require acknowledgement, respect, and land. And I envisage that reparations can take the form of preserving traditional knowledge and encouraging sustainable development for the benefit of all. The meager 25 acres leased, and it's a short lease of that, only 30 years, can never compensate for such profound loss that catapulted our First Peoples into persistent poverty and denied them their identity. Just as there is no statute of limitations for murder, there is none for genocide. And for once, the law is also on the side of the First Peoples. And we heard about Canada and what's happening after 80 years came to light and retribution. I hope that both the state and the church can lead the way in reparations, not only for land. The church can also open up its archives and let the truth be told so we can reveal the anthropological record. We need to do that step to ground legal rights. And of course, although I talk about reparations, I've said to the people before, there's also a litigation strategy as has happened in order to their land, but now we're talking about reparations. But that is also a strategy. Our First Peoples deserve more than a token. Good faith, true understanding, and true justice demands more. But it is in the climate smart strategy that I see the most pragmatic way forward. We must involve our First Peoples, from whom we can learn so much. How to treat with our waterways. First Peoples have been traversing and navigating the carib. Again, reference something I said sometime before, the emerging cannabis industry. We are already criminalized and about to pass legislation for agri-industry cannabis. And as the chair of the CARICOM Marijuana Commission, one of the concerns in our report was the need to ensure that traditional farmers, the small man and woman, could have a stake in this emerging industry and given assistance to do so. And I think it's a really great opportunity for the community, especially since they're already grounded in natural herbal remedies and agricultural know-how and sustainable environmental philosophy. So I don't know what it was. I attended the Sadhguru workshop at conference, and I want to disagree with him there about cannabis, because apart from health, there's the issue of social justice that is very important. But let's get that. I firmly believe that preserving culture, unique practices, along with preserving the environment that supports livelihoods, provide the gateway to sustaining a people and strengthening a nation. So we must have these pragmatic roots. Consequently, although the First Peoples have a long history in agriculture and conservation, I think we should also mesh their ancient skills with the environment, with responsible agricultural practices of the modern world. And here I see a very important role for the University of the West Indies and our Faculty of Agriculture, so we can give First Peoples the tools to empower them to teach us. Repairing and preserving will require bold, utilitarian approaches. We must address the contentious issue of land as a first priority. It is through land and land rights that traditional knowledge can be preserved for the benefit of us all and reverse climate change. Unsurprisingly, it is a priority for the First Peoples communities, and rightly so. We talk about it at every opportunity. The 400 they asked for, and they got how much? 25 acres. And so in order to accentuate their rights, or their civil and political rights, as well as economic, social, and cultural rights. And of course, land is inextricably bound up with the pursuit of and preservation of traditional knowledge, underlying, of course, their spiritual existence. So it involves not just the ability to generate sustainable livelihoods based on these ancestral links, but also to develop the traditional medicines, etc. And I think that we, in communion with what the First Peoples have been saying, this legal identity and this official recognition, this entitlement, and that first step has not yet been taken in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have a lot of work to do. As I said, other countries, even in the region, have had to litigate. The last successful case was in Belize, the Mayan Alliance case. And we've had Guyana, we've had Suriname, many other countries in the region have had to turn to international law and the courts. And even when they have won these rights by way of the law and the court, there have been attempts to take away some of these rights. So it is a difficult process, yes, and when I was a rapporteur, we had to deal with a lot of these. First Peoples, as we speak, are being murdered for their land in Brazil and other parts of the world. So remember though, as I said, that access to land and property is not just for their own use or individual title usage, but because their use of land results in a guardianship of heritage for all peoples, given the beneficial environmental and sacred land practices that First Peoples employ. So while we appreciate the 25 acres, it is not adequate, and we need to do a lot more for this targeted heritage village, which will create employment, reduce poverty, and enhance the well-being, not just of the First Peoples, but of the state and all its citizens. It is also, I think, an important step towards justice. It is all 6 years independent, and 6 years of time when the recklessness of youth has been displaced by a somber reckoning. I know because I'm an independence baby. Somber reckoning. I even got $10 and a medal for being born. I was the first in the room. I have the medal, I got it when I was 50 years old, but I never got the $10. So that this is a time when the recklessness of youth has been displaced, or should be displaced, by a somber reckoning of the need to preserve the future, to conserve, to make choices that are long term, not just the easy short term route. I know there have been sporadic attempts by the state, and I want to acknowledge that, Mr. Mayor, the River Borough Council in particular, to give recognition that the First Peoples are knowledgeable about the environment, that they are the real experts in terms of forests and fauna and so on, and to involve them in the green industry. I know, for instance, in my own research at PI, Christoph Donis, one of the experts, we, along with other First Peoples, they have had contracts to operate reforestation projects, initially in El Rico. And apart from forest expertise and sustainable hunting, they have identified a need in terms of houses, also for traditional healer using plants, making medicines, food products, coconut branch weaving, and the like. All skills which need to be passed on. And of course, they have also been engaged to deal with these water resources. They check dams, they drive seasonal water irrigation, preserve streams, use wood and other natural products to prevent erosion, and just generally the elders are also experts in doing tours, such as the mountains of El Tucush, Serra del Aripo, and the Comarca Cave, etc. However, this is an important point. These forms of expertise need assistance for them to be sustained, and succession planning is a priority. There is a fear that the knowledge is being lost to the detriment of both the community and the environment. And the elders are eager to pass on the knowledge, but funding is a problem. So if you're not getting the funding to do the training, and so you will deviate from these activities and do different things in order to survive. And that will be a great loss to the community, to traditional knowledge and to sustainability. So while I explore all of these efforts, more should be done. And it should not be ad hoc. They should not be seen as handouts, but genuine recognition of the value First Peoples bring to the conservation goal. First Peoples deserve the opportunity to work towards sustainable communities and environments, not as a privilege or a favor, but a right firmly established in law. And we need to use the concept of rights to bring about this important change. So for example, we could have a symbolic return of indigenous lands. Using up unoccupied lands, Chief mentioned is a right, but there are many others, forests and so on, waiting to be tilled, or simply to preserve for other uses, or just for our sustainability in terms of the ecological system. And they can be used with this garbage for all of us. I think also First Peoples can partner or should partner with the state in this endeavor. The University of West Indies, of course, I'm not just plugging, I think this is real, and of course the private sector as well, which can engage in meaningful green projects. We should go further, I think. We can make real First Peoples spaces energy resilient and sustainable by using renewable energy, something I'm particularly interested in. Solar systems and the like. These are our original climate smart peoples. I am right now working, I've already submitted a proposal for funding, on acquiring funding to make that heritage village solar powered, Chief. I think I mentioned that to you before. That proposal is already, and I want to assure you that UB St. Augustine will partner with you on that endeavor, and also in the development of your agricultural framework when that village is up and running. So we can have a model solar energy heritage village. So I call on the state to make our First Peoples the custodian of our treasured nature spaces, the forests, the waterfalls, together with sound food security and solar energy plans in partnership with UB St. Augustine and others. And I have no doubt that when First Peoples begin to aggressively and successfully pursue a sustainable green development plan, there will be predators, and as we've seen in other countries. So the First Peoples will need champions, more and more champions, to ensure that that success continues. I want to mention too the role of intellectual property law. That will also be important in the thrust towards sustainability, to harness traditional knowledge bases of our First Peoples, give them concrete tools of law to better protect and preserve their own interests and resources. Once this green revolution gets going, there will be spin-offs, different innovative products to complement the wealth of indigenous knowledge products. And they will be susceptible to theft in a world where things do not have value unless possessed, signed, sealed, and delivered. So we need the IP to protect all of those creations. Plans in agribusiness, which I know the community already has, arts and craft, plant maintenance, all of this feeds into that vision. And I hope this commercial Kalinago brand is still on the table, Chief. And this was why in 2019, when I was still the Dean of the Faculty of Law, we had a highly successful workshop, a training workshop on intellectual property and environmental law for indigenous equip the community. It was actually oversubscribed, and I see some people here who were there at it. And I think it was the first time I was told that all of the various indigenous peoples came together on one project. So we need to continue that, because we don't want to have more rape of the First Peoples, this time not physical, but the rape of their very ideas and identity. We want to be able to protect that. And yes, Chief, I agree with you. While there are no specific laws protecting the rights of the First People, there are also laws which conflict directly with, in some cases, violate the inherent rights of indigenous peoples. Your right to protect, practice your religious beliefs, economic, social, and cultural rights, sustainable livelihoods. These are all compromised by certain laws. And it has yet to be addressed by this state. So, for example, the smoking in public spaces, which conflict with the smoke and water ceremonies, which are witnessed all over the region by indigenous peoples, their difficulties, the conservation laws that prohibit hunting, the closed season for certain animals, and also some of the water issues, which conflict with First Right people's practices and traditional meat diets. And what we require is not a carte blanche, but it requires special exemptions to existing laws or provisions in the laws to permit such practices for those peoples. And they also, these contradictory laws, and the absence of good law to protect those people's rights, actually conflict with the letter and spirit of the UN Declaration on the Rights of First Peoples. So that is something, and again, it springs from the lack of a legal identity, which we need to do. And some of the general laws as well also violated. It is not too late, I don't think. Moving forward, there must be a national policy that is coherent and consistent. As an oil and gas producing country, of course oil and gas is a major economic winner and will be so for a long time incidentally, but it's also a major polluter. So our task is always a bit more difficult when we start talking about green and climate and these things. But it's inevitable that we must formulate a coherent green agenda. And I'm suggesting first peoples need to be at the center of that policy. Recognizing the vast spaces that need to be made ecologically safe will have huge benefits and long-term cost effectiveness for our nation. And of course, there must be a harmonious coexistence with the oil and gas sector and this green agenda, not the oil spills and feeding on the fish and all that. We must find strategic ways to reduce our carbon footprint within a just transition framework, and First Peoples have an important role to play in this endeavor, in this roadmap for change. I think that would be a very good 60th anniversary gift that we give ourselves. So development must be inclusive of solid environmental and food security goals, not uniform as it is now. And this is not a utopia, this is not far-fetched. The UN Global Food Report already is warning us of certain food species which are vital for feeding the world is becoming extinct at an alarming rate, threatening our very existence. And that's of course because we have ill-treated the poor lands and so on. So we need to make that philosophical shift. We need to make that radical change in this era of huge food insecurity and climate change challenges. And it really is a good time for us to be examining how we can learn from First Peoples' practices and philosophies and devise those such ways. We are called, I think, as Quran reminded us in that beautiful poem, to remember our ancestors, our first peoples and their loving embrace and care of the earth. There's also the continuing struggle against the threat of extinction, perhaps not physically, not, I don't think I'd be something to murder first peoples, but the loss of identity and culture as traditional knowledge is forgotten. So First Peoples communities must be strengthened, preserving culture, traditional knowledge, including language, and unique practices of preserving the environment that supports these livelihoods, provide the gateway for this group. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have a lot of work to do in this regard, to reverse this invisibilization. Right here in the region, there are indigenous peoples who are disconnected with the community. We need to bring everyone on board. And a little birdie told me that even the wife of our Honorable Prime Minister has roots as ancestry indigenous people. So we have champions out there that we can bring on board. And I also hear the call of the First Peoples. A priority is obtaining a political office. No, Mr. Mayor, we don't want a job, no, Mr. Petty. But there is a room, there is space for an automatic seat in governance, in keeping with their historical significance and loss. It's not far-fetched again. In many countries in the world, there are quotas for indigenous peoples in national parliaments, Colombia, Brazil, even Guyana. So it is feasible, and I think it is wise to have First Peoples, at least on the district councils, if not in parliament, where there are significant populations. It would be an inclusive approach, which I think will make benefits. So there are many priorities as we go forward. The funding, highlighting the value products, the training, so that the traditional knowledge residing in our First Peoples community will become even more important in future generations as we all fight to control our destiny. And if we are to adequately reclaim and protect and harness First Peoples enterprise and endeavor, we need more than lip service. We need hard law, informed policy, and pragmatic approaches. We deserve this gift of ourselves to lead us to a true path to development, prosperity, and peace. And as I close, I want to say how absolutely delighted I am that my first speaking engagement as principal of the St. Augustine campus is this year. Quite a coincidence. But they say nothing in life is a coincidence. In Arima, my childhood home. Now my parents are not Jari. My mother took care of what Jari means. It's supposed to be here for how many generations? Isn't that so? So that is Jari. And I am saying, I'm not Jari. My parents were not Arima, but the younger ones when we came in the 60s were born. So I was born in Arima and grew up in Arima. And I was I'm proudly so. I'm a Arima girl. In fact, I was asked by that indigenous. Sadly, I don't have any as far as I know, but I know I was put in the papers once when I was in one of these San Jose festivals, lighting a torch, and they put me in the papers as a young carib. So by association. So let me just say congratulations to our First Peoples as we celebrate the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. Thank you so much.
I think, Professor, you are Jari. That's okay. As a Jari myself, you are Jari. That's okay. Not honorary. Direct Jari. It's okay. We claim you. We claim you. Thank you very much for such an intellectually rich, thought-provoking, stimulating, legally rich, with great ideas that Chief, I'm sure you listened to every word. Chief clung on to every word that you said just now. And I think your presentation this evening offers great hope for the First Peoples, the Centers of First Peoples community and other Indigenous communities. And so we thank you so very much for that wonderful presentation. What a time to principal, what a time for the, if you saw yesterday's Guardian, what a time to principal, what a time for the principal to address us. And we are honored that this is in fact your first speaking engagement, and we are very much richer and wiser for it. Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point I wish to invite Dr. Juliet Hilary Bernard. Dr. Bernard. As she leads the special presentations and expression of thanks. Of course, you know Dr. Bernard is one of our leading dentists in Arima, and she is in fact in the world. A member of the Centers of First Peoples community. Thank you, Dr. Bernard.
Saka Orikans, good evening to everybody. Chief, it's always good to see you. Member of Parliament. Mia. Everybody, it's so good to see you all. I am here to say thanks. It is part of our spirituality to say thanks. It's also good manners and the way we were brought up, especially here in Arima. So I begin by thanking the Madre Salva, which was done by the Los Alumnos de San Juan and our Santa Rosa First Peoples for the invocation. As you know, everywhere around the world, whenever the First peoples are called for an invocation, you can always expect something unique, something different, but certainly something very sincere. So thank you very much for the invocation. Our first citizen is Worship the Mayor. It's good to see you this evening. We don't do anything without our first citizen being invited. And we are blessed to have a mayor who is always ready to say yes, to attend and to be a part of everything that is Arima. So thank you very much for being here this evening. Our poet laureate, and I like to say walking encyclopedia, in the person of Pearl Andrew Springer, and our vocalist extraordinaire, and so much more, composer, arranger, conductor, John Thomas. Thank you very much for your presentations this evening. They were certainly very well received, and we always look forward to your presence among us. Our Member of Parliament and Minister, I like to call her Minister of many things, because she has so many different portfolios beyond just the ministry that she's involved in. I really believe that God ordains things and circumstances for his people. And I think, like you said, Minister Penny, yes, you are here at such a perfect time, at the right time, for many reasons, but for the First Peoples here, we are so encouraged by all that you are already doing and all that we know you will continue to push to see realized. You have always been a part of this community. So it feels like I'm saying thank you to ourselves, but I know that your schedule is extremely busy. And I want to say thank you very, very much, very sincerely, for you being here this evening. Rosemary, I want to take this time to personally congratulate you on your appointment as principal of the UE. I think everybody in the room was grinning, especially those who knew you growing up. You know, it's like, but we know, although you were the young girl running around with us, we have watched your growth, your progress through the years, and I am so heartened this evening by your presentation. You touched on so many facets that represent the complexity of our First People's existence here, and it tells us that it's not just an academic presentation. You know what the community is going through, and I know that Chief is excited. I am already excited for the many collaborations that I see developing, that you have offered. You've given us a helping hand, and we are certainly going to take hold and grasp that hand and do as much as we can for ourselves, because we're not just waiting for everybody else to do for us. We want to do for ourselves as well. And I thank you so very much for being here. And it's great that this was your first official presentation. We feel very honored. And we would like to make a special presentation to you this evening, and we have two special young people coming to do just that on behalf of the Santa Rosa First Peoples. I love your photo moment.
It's not that old there, I was in an accident.
So thank you very much, Professor Rosemary Bell and Twine, for your care and concern for the First Peoples and for your wonderful presentation. It's strange to say thanks to you, Chief. I'm really I could never finish saying thanks to you because it ain't finished. it's a daily toil, but it's a daily joy as well, and we know your effort over the decades to bring us to this point, and I think we need to give Chief a real big round of applause. There's so much more to this man. There's just so much that he has to do. It is just, I don't know, obviously, God has his hand on him because I thought I was an energizer bunny, but mercy. There's so much to do because at the end of the day, after all the different portfolios, you still have to take care of yourself and your family. And he is doing just that. So thank you very much for all that you do. Thanks to the men who are handling the PA system and those who would have prepared whatever we will enjoy later on. But a very special thank you also to our chair lady, Senator Laurel Lezama. Listen, I feel like we have one of those super official voices, you know, a national voice, taking care. Jawi to boot, yes. You know, people talk about Jawi. Well, this is a Rima, so if you don't hear about Jawi in a Rima, then you're probably not in a Rima, okay? So allow us the privilege to talk about Jawi in a Rima. We are a people who are very much into our traditions, and what tradition is greater than that of the First Peoples of Arima. So, Senator, thank you very much for your continued support and your presence. Always, always very pleasant and welcome. And that's my task this evening. So, thank you all as well for being here. It's a great day, Day of the First Peoples, and you can be sure we will be entertained very joyously in just none other than Los Alumnos San Juan.
I just want to recognize some persons here, some ladies here from Lopino. Mariposa. I think there are 4 sisters here present, and they are very always supportive of our community and our efforts. As a matter of fact, they feel themselves part of this community, and they are rightly so, because the First Peoples not only live in Arima, they are spread all over the country, but at places like Lupino, La Pastora, you will find a lot of the descendants there, and they are certainly part of that tradition. So I know they left their mom at home, and they will bring back to our greetings and take care of our transfer. Also, we have Donna Mora. So there are quite a few of them from Lopino. That is, as a matter of fact, most of the people who came to Arima when the mission was established came from Cora, which is the same as Lopino, just over the hills. So that we have quite a lot of our people in that settlement also. So thanks for being here, for your support.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the end of our program. This is our penultimate presentation. And so we tune in now to the street voices of Los Alumnos de San Juan.
I'll have to call on the list to play maracas.
For us paranderos, parang is la vida.
So we have a miembro, right? Muy buenas tardes a todos, me llamo Alicia. Estoy aquí con la música de la parranda. Este es el grupo Los Alumnos de San Juan. Estamos aquí con el parrandón. Muy buenas tardes a todos, me llaman Alicia. Estoy aquí con la música de la parranda. Este es el grupo Los Alumnos de San Juan. Estamos aquí con el parrandón. A tocar parranda, a cantar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para que esta vida. A bailar parranda, a cantar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para que esta vida. A tocar parranda, a cantar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para que esta vida. A bailar parranda, a gozar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para que esta vida. Somos mensajeros de Cristo el Salvador. Somos paranderos de nuestro Señor. Vamos a cantar sobre el nacimiento, sobre el nacimiento del niño divino. Somos mensajeros de Cristo el Salvador. Somos paranderos de nuestro Señor. Vamos a cantar sobre el nacimiento, sobre el nacimiento del niño divino. Para tocar parranda, para cantar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A bailar parranda, a gozar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A tocar parranda, a cantar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A bailar parranda, a gozar parranda. Con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. Con alegría y con mucha pasión, todo el mundo baila cuando estoy cantando de mi corazón. Toco el cuatro y bajo el camarada, con alegría y con mucha pasión, todo el mundo baila cuando estoy cantando de mi corazón. A tocar parandas, a cantar parandas, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A bailar parranda, a cantar parranda, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A tocar parranda, a cantar parranda, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A bailar parranda, a gozar parranda, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A tocar parranda, a cantar parranda, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A bailar parranda, a gozar parranda, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A tocar parranda, a cantar parranda, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. A bailar parranda, a gozar parranda, con los paranderos de mi país para esta vida. Sing glory and just praise. Cantando gloria. Cantando gloria, gloria. cantando gloria, gloria, gloria en el cielo. En nuestra nació el Dios verdadero. En nuestra nació el Dios verdadero. En esta humilde nació el poderoso de José y María, el niño glorioso. De José y María, el niño glorioso. Cantando gloria, gloria, gloria en el cielo. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. Cantando gloria, gloria, gloria en el cielo. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. Gloria, gloria en el cielo. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. Cantando gloria, gloria, gloria en el cielo. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. Cantando gloria, gloria, gloria en el cielo. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero, cantando gloria, gloria, gloria en el cielo. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. En un establo nació el Dios verdadero. El Dios verdadero.
Tribute to el carib Santa Rosa, no, Santa Rosa Paran. Vamos a Belén. Vamos a Belén. Sí. Only see remark here, right? That's if we ever show that to each other. I will have to send the schedule so that, you know, at least the marker will know when we have shows. Officially, I Los Alumnos Band.
Vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar, Río María, adorar. Vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar, Río María, adorar, adorar. A Belén, adorar, vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar. El Hijo de María queremos adorar. Vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar. El Hijo de María queremos adorar. A la medianoche salió el lucero, alumbra el camino a Dios verdadero. A la medianoche salió el lucero, alumbra el camino a Dios verdadero. Vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar. El Hijo de María queremos adorar. Vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar. El Hijo de María queremos adorar. La reina Virgen, la montaña fue, pero no quisieron el niño nacer. La reina Virgen, la montaña fue, pero no quisieron el niño nacer. Vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar. El Hijo de María queremos adorar. Vamos a Belén, vamos a adorar. El Hijo de María queremos adorar.
Short 20 days there. Yeah. So if you're standing up, you just have to raise your heels, and if you're sitting down, you just raise the shoulders, Simple, So it's world indigenous day here, what we ready, the whole world vibrate. We celebrate it. Let me go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, shoulders,
Puso voy a llorar. Olvídate y olvídate. Ay, 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 cómo no voy a llorar. Olvídate y olvídate. Si conmigo cantar, la música que para mí la compré, puro bailar, para noche y para día. Fui a cantar, la música que para mí la compré, puro bailar, para noche y para día. Ay, 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 cómo no voy a llorar. Olvídate y olvídate. Ay, 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 cómo no voy a llorar. Otra vez, olvídate, otra vez. Ay, 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 cómo no voy a llorar. Solo olvídate y olvídate. Ay, 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 cómo no voy a llorar. Solo olvídate y olvídate. Ay, 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 cómo no.
Thank you very much for having us, and we are happy to be part of this celebration. And I know everything must come to, things must come to for us. So I want to say thank you very much to the chief, and we look forward to the celebration coming on Santa Rosa Festival.
Aquí, your stage will be outside, so I will play.
We look at you all alone. We just came out of Christmas in July, so we just came along right up. But I will love this back to around here. As we say thank you so very much.
See, yes, it's a time of the year when we love to share with our friends and family, fans and foes. I see days are shorter and longer the atmosphere, with love and laughter, joy and care. Here's what, look, we're getting ready to head up to Lupino. The traffic bandit pull up and be ready for the show. Holding on, it don't want to miss. No saloon, no, yeah. Then we're getting ready to head up to Paramin. We're 5 in the morning, we're still paramin. If all of your problem, I'll see you do so. Guess what? If all of the first people, so Trinidad and Tobago, let me see. If all enjoy World Indigenous Day, let me see all the hands like this. Eso, despacito. We're getting ready for the business. It's a Cristo. In the nation, to the way it's out. Despacito. This is how we do it here in the secret rainbow. Around the house, we don't have to know you. We take and we drink everything you bring. Tell them what we tell them. I never would have put up with the number from the East of Vega. That is gonna drive me down, girl. I see you see somebody go. Coming like to Japan. Watch out for my pastel. Put your hands, make your big go. See somebody go. Everyone I see the girl. Singing like the teacher. With your music in the air. It goes over once again. People shouting up and singing along with the high. Los solemnity singing despacito. Come on, you to sing like that. Everybody comes in, don't know say someone. Mash up every product when you see me touch down. Besito, besito, suavecito. And I know the melody, I think the real power. All the para, all the para. And I know the melody, besito, besito, suavecito. And I know the melody, I think the real power. All the para, all the para. And I know the melody, I think the real power. Just as the summer shines, which is faithful. We got you ready for the best of just a lawyer. Eating and drinking everything you bring. Pasito, pasito, pasito. What you gonna say? What you gonna pasito, pasito. They should have got one. Thank you so very much. It's such a wonderful audience. And we like to thank the minister for being our palavera today. Muchas gracias, DJ.
Huge thank you to those singing our lead singer, Mr. Jonathan, and our first addition to the band, Honorable Penelope who was not only on the miraculous but the congas. Yes. So thank you very much. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end. It has been a pleasure having each and every one of you. And as you leave, we will notice that Maria Newton will serenade us, or will rather perform for us, the Burpee dance. Sure. We're going to do one quick photo shoot quickly, and then we will do the dance. So we're inviting all members of our First Peoples communities, our visiting delegations, and our fundraising First Peoples to please come forward.
Los pequeñitos adelante, los más pequeños adelante y los más altos atrás. Mira, sí, o los más altos atrás. No tienes que...
Anybody miss it? That's it.
But he is taller than them, you know, he will have to bring it back. Ustedes van a tener que ponerse un poquito para allá atrás. No, take it off. Quítatela. Mira, quítate la gorra, anda. Quítate la gorra, por favor.
You want it right here? Where's Minister?
Minister is calling you.
You have to place it.
Small ones and from big ones.
Yeah. Small ones and from the big ones.
Yeah, go too much in it because you know they are
Jimena, para adelante, échase un poquito más para adelante.
The short ones in front.
Los más pequeños. Los más pequeños van para adelante. Colóquense más adelante, venga, más para adelante, venga. Échate para adelante, sí, échate para adelante un poquito. Ajá, tú vas aquí a la... Jumena, échate para adelante, anda. Échense un pelín para acá, para que... Tú eres muy chiquito, ponte aquí. Quítate esa gorra y ponla para abajo, que la gorra no la necesitamos. Échate para acá.
Es muy chiquito, enano.
Quédate ahí. Dame, pon el jugo en la silla.
Take the move, take the move, take the move.
Thank you.
Yes, Laura.
What is on you? What is on you?
Okay, what, cheers? With the para.
Sit down here, give me that, I want to take your pedal.
You take that look? Únanse un poquito más, que les van a tomar otra foto con el grupo más pequeñito y el cacique. Échate para acá, Joana. Yomena.
All right. You ready?
What do you want? What?
Painting on the faces.
No, the thing coming out, actually. Yeah. La pintura de la cara.
Se le borró. Se le borró.
Yeah, the thing come out.
María.
¿Otra qué? Colócate pues en pongan las dos niñas en el frente. Va en el centro. Mira, ponte para este lado, ya va en el centro. Okay, échate tú para acá, para este lado. Okay. Yes, porque así tienen 3 y 3. Pégate para allá, que tú eres mayor, ustedes dos. Mira por acá y así. Perfecto. No, tú vas aquí atrás, ella va en el medio. Pero así de medio lado, medio lado. Eso. Ahora sí sonrían, pues.
Mijo, tira la foto, mijo, con la ministra. No te sientes. ¿Con este? No. Con ese no. Está bloqueado. Es una X. Es una Z. Es una Z.
Sonrían.
No, with this group. Okay. Everyone. Come on.
No te crees.
Vengan, que falta María. Apúrense.
If we're going to use them for the Prime Minister, we have to get on the music. And we have to do something else. Yeah, what we can do. Yeah. All right, second to we'll get something.
Who was also named in the history of dance last week.
Siéntense aquí, ya yo voy a creer.
padrote. Wow.
Demasiado bello.
Traje nuevo. El traje nuevo.
Sí, se le ve.
Mira qué lindo es.